Call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckner.
Here.
Reverend Campbell.
Here.
Mayor Gilstrap.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Here.
Dr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Saunders.
Here.
Mr. Shanks.
Here.
Mr. Vogler.
Here.
Mr. Whittle.
Here. Please stand for the invocation led by Councilman Fred Shanks and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we are truly blessed by all that you have provided us. As we move from a period of thanksgiving through this period of preparation and into a time of anticipation, guide us to be as you would have us be. Be with us in our hearts, our minds, our spirituality. Teach us to learn and live the lessons of your works and walk in your way. Help us to live a peaceful life of faith, hope, and love. Help us share those attributes with those that we meet and touch each day. We pray that you provide our leaders with your wisdom and advice so that they may make good decisions for our country and decisions that you would bless. Help this city council to do likewise. God bless those that protect our freedom, both at home and around the world, and bless those that protect us here in our community. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Communications from visitors. Citizens who desire to speak on matters not listed on the agenda will be heard at this time. Citizens who desire to speak on agenda items will be heard when the agenda item is considered. Anyone wish to speak on an item not on the agenda, please come forward. Hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda. Consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine, have previously been discussed by City Council and are introduced for first reading. There will be no separate discussion on these items, and they will be enacted by one motion. If discussion is desired by a council member or a citizen, the items will be removed from the consent process and considered separately. Anyone wishing to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I have a motion. Councilman Whittle.
Mayor, I move we approve consent agenda.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Campbell. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Buckner.
Aye.
Reverend Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Gilstrap.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Dr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Saunders.
Aye.
Mr. Shanks.
Aye.
Mr. Vogler.
Aye.
Mr. Whittle.
Aye.
Under new business, consideration of authorizing and approving eminent domain for acquisition of right-of-way and easements for PIN 72868 on Mount Cross Road. I open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Close the public hearing. Council, what is your pleasure? Councilman Shanks.
May I move for adoption of a resolution authorizing employment of the Danville law firm of Daniel, Medley, and Kirby, P.C.
Is there a second? Councilman Buckner, any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Reverend Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Gilstrap.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Dr. Miller. Aye. Mr. Saunders.
Aye.
Mr. Shanks.
Aye.
Mr. Vogler.
Aye.
Mr. Whittle.
Aye.
Mr. Buckner.
Aye.
Clark, the 2 and 3, we need, okay.
Those are separate, yes, sir.
Separate, they have to be done separately. Councilman Shanks.
Yes, Mayor. I move for adoption of a resolution authorizing and directing the initiation of eminent domain proceedings for the purpose of acquiring property rights for the improvement of Mount Cross Road from Lowe's Drive to Diamond Drive / Parker Road.
Is there a second to the motion? Councilman Vice Mayor Jones. Discussion. Councilman Shanks.
Mayor, I think anybody that has watched the city council over the years understands that we do not enjoy the use of eminent domain. And in this particular case, there are extenuating circumstances that certainly don't make this an adversarial case of eminent domain. And I just wanted to make that a public knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Mayor Gilstrap.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Dr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Saunders.
Aye.
Mr. Shanks.
Aye.
Mr. Vogler.
Aye.
Mr. Whittle.
Aye.
Mr. Buckner.
Aye.
Reverend Campbell.
Item B, consideration of approval of a resolution of support for an application to the Tobacco Commission for Project Lignum. Councilman Campbell.
Mr. Mayor, I move for adopting the resolution authorizing the submission of an application for the fiscal year 2018 Virginia Tobacco Regional Revitalization Commission Southern Area Economic Development Grant Program.
Seconded, Vice Mayor Jones. Any discussion? Call roll, please.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Dr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Saunders.
Aye.
Mr. Shanks.
Aye.
Mr. Vogler.
Aye.
Mr. Whittle.
Aye.
Mr. Buckner.
Aye.
Reverend Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Gilstrap.
Aye. Item C, consideration of approval of a resolution of support to the Tobacco Commission for a grant for construction of a shell building. Councilman Vogler.
Yes, Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for the fiscal year 2018 Virginia Tobacco Region Revitalization Commission Southern Area Economic Development Grant Program.
Is there a second? Councilman Buckner. Discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Saunders.
Aye.
Mr. Shanks.
Aye.
Mr. Vogler.
Aye.
Mr. Whittle.
Aye.
Mr. Buckner.
Aye.
Reverend Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Gilstrap.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Item D, consideration of amending the fiscal year 2018 budget appropriation ordinance for a litter control and recycling grant. What's your pleasure? Councilman Buckner.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2018 budget appropriation ordinance to anticipate grant funds from the Commonwealth of Virginia for litter control and recycling efforts in the amount of $9,839 and appropriating the same.
Is there a second? Seconded. Councilman Whittle, first reading. First reading. Item E, consideration of authorizing the City of Danville to execute a lease agreement for FBO services with General Aviation. What is your pleasure? Councilman Shanks.
Yes, Mayor, I move for a resolution approving an agreement leasing office and maintenance space at the Danville Regional Airport for fixed base operator services.
Is there a second to the motion? Councilman Buckner. Discussion on the motion. Councilman Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have been thinking about this project since it first came up, and this has certainly been a tough call for me, being involved in discussion and sharing my views publicly on my thoughts. I also support the mayor's committee that was appointed to study this project and appreciate their work as well. However, even the committee's recommendation was divided. And that's okay, we don't have to always agree, but it was divided. You look at the discussion we've had in our work session, City Council itself on this issue is divided, in my view. The volunteers who served on this airport commission made their recommendation, which is different from what is being proposed tonight. And also, as I understand it, that our city staff, to include our legal staff, were involved in the initial recommendation with regards to this project, and they presented that at the meeting. I'm also concerned that we may risk losing more volunteers. I have not served lately, but I've served for a number of years off and on on the city's appointment committees, and it's difficult to get people to serve sometimes. So looking at the recommendation of these volunteers and these people who have worked to make the recommendation, and yes, we are entitled to ours, has caused me to have a change of heart. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion?
Well,
Councilman Miller.
yeah, again, the Airport Commission voted unanimously with one abstention. One person abstained because he was affiliated with Averett. It was 8-0, and after hearing all I heard, I think the best thing for the city in going forward to what's better for the future of the city is, and as I said before, that I think Averett would do a superior job over the city. They would promote the airport better, and it would go forth. And at the end of the day, we have to think what's best for the city. So I'm opposed to this motion.
Councilman Jones.
Mr. Mayor, as you know, I serve as the chair of the boards and committees appointments. Also serve on that committee with Councilman Campbell and Councilman Buckner. As stated by Councilman Sherman Saunders, he's absolutely correct. These are volunteers that we appointed to advise, and they did just that. So I too will be supporting what was presented to us by the commission, which was to oppose. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Please, from the audience, please come up and speak to the item.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gary Wood. I began my aviation career in 1970. 45 plus years, I visited hundreds of FBOs throughout the Western Hemisphere, Pacific, Atlantic, and Europe. The companies that I worked for, two of which were Fortune 500 companies, considered General Aviation, Danville, Virginia, as a better than average FBO. The service was quick. They attended to our passengers. The fuel prices were reasonable. Fuel was available any hour of the night if we needed it. And the few times that we had maintenance issues, they had a very capable mechanic. From what I can tell, we were very happy with their operations. Now, I hope you consider my comments. Any questions?
Thank you. Any others wish to comment on the agenda item? Please come forward.
Good evening, council members and Mr. Mayor. I'm Tom Giulio. I'm from South Boston, Virginia. I've written a letter to your body regarding the FBO operation here in Danville, Virginia. I too am a pilot and have traveled all across Virginia, north, south, east, west, North Carolina, and so on. I am 7 years into the aviation business, so I'm relatively new to this. But in my travels, I have found that people acknowledge general aviation, and they are wide known throughout the state. I've had comments made to me by other general aviation operations, or FBO operations, I should say, that general aviation has been one of the forerunners in setting an example of an excellent way to operate an FBO. They are regarded very highly by other FBO operations throughout the state of Virginia. And so I think that we need to remember that this family has dedicated almost 70 years of their productive working life toward the gateway of Southside Virginia, which is a very important gateway, and have done an excellent job as ambassadors to other people coming to this area of the state. So I'm very much for the continuation of general aviation, and I thank you for your consideration. if anyone has any questions to me.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Shanks?
Mr. Mayor, this is still between the motion and the second and the vote, so I think I have an opportunity to comment.
This is on the motion, yes.
I would like to just, I'm sorry we're at this point, and I understand how we got here, but I kind of thought we had gone through this in detail in the work session, and I understand people's minds can be changed between work session and public session. But I would like to point out to City Council that those two gentlemen that just spoke were similar to close to 100 people that have spoken to the Airport Study Committee that the mayor appointed. We had stakeholder input at one meeting, and I would say of the speakers that were, I don't know how to estimate how many speakers. I would have studied my information if I'd known we were having this discussion tonight. But let's just say there were 80 speakers. I would say of those 80, there would probably be 90% similar comments to the two gentlemen that just spoke. And I think a lot of other work went into this by the mayor's committee. There was numerous hours, 5 or 6 meetings over a period of 4 or 5 months. And we studied a great deal of information, including the public stakeholder input. At the stakeholder meeting, we had opportunities for people who rented hangars, for people who flew in and out of Danville, and for people who had planes in and out of in Danville and at that airport. And I'm telling you, the people that use that airport are, for the most part, very large percentage are in support of and in favor of the product that is being offered by General Aviation. And I hope that we will continue to support the recommendation of the study committee and General Aviation. Thank you.
Dr. Miller?
Well, again, I think it goes to the future. I have no doubt that from what we heard, that they've provided a good service through the years, but the service has fallen off. The application was miserable, was presented. The airport commission, the city had to look elsewhere because they did not respond, and it was a very inferior application with data from 10 or 15 years ago, and now we just have to look to the future. What's best for the future of Danville? We're trying to promote the airport, build it up, and attract more people to use it with more industries coming in. And I think if we look at the future was with Everett. Thank you.
Please come forward and state your name. By the way, while he's coming forward, let me just say the discussion on an agenda item is open to both everyone. And Councilman, you have questions, we will come back to you.
Yeah, to the comment that was made about the 8-0 vote and the...
Please state your name.
My name is Wesley Atkins, ATKNS. I agree. An 8-0 vote sounds overwhelming, but does that not make anybody question an 8-0 vote? You have how many members here and you guys can't agree on it, and an 8-0 vote to change something? On top of that, you don't represent the airport commission, you represent the community. And the community has overwhelmingly stated and voiced their opinion for general aviation. Now, I'm not going to argue with what the commission said, and I'm not going to split hairs with it. However, the overwhelming support for general aviation, not only in the petitions that were signed from a part of this community as well as others, but the number of people that just showed up in support of general aviation for that business should speak to the way the business not only operated in the past. You speak of the future, I agree. Danville does need to promote. But how can a business that lost a ton of money during their runway, not to mention hasn't had a air show, hasn't done anything, the airport hadn't been improved in any way with the exception of some lights, the bathrooms out there are horrendous. I mean, you go to any other FBO and go to Martinsville, any other FBO, and there is investments in that. But I haven't seen any of that, and I've been flying with Mike for 8 years. Now, as far as from personal experience with Mike, there have been time after time where I've been short of cash. And Mike has always said, take the airplane, Pay me when you can, don't worry about it, and we'll get straight. In order for me to get my license, in order for me to continue learning to fly and discover aviation. Now, I'm trying to stay not to be emotional in this at all, but the Airport Commission 8-0, I don't know what else to say about it. It's ridiculous, because Mike has never been anything but promoting for aviation. He's went out and spent countless amounts of money on that airplane to keep it up to snuff as far as modern avionics to teach people to fly. I don't know what else I can say about it. Other than I like Averett, like I told them during this thing. My ex-wife graduated from there. It's a great school. I don't argue that. They might do a great job. But when Mike's ready to turn it over, he's paid his rent, he's paid his bills, and he's paid his dues. Averett hasn't. Averett hasn't. They just want to jump into a business that already exists. I'd love that opportunity too. Jump into a business that already exists, a customer base that's already there. But just my opinion. Sorry, a little emotional.
Thank you. I have Councilman Saunders, and then, did you have a question to the speaker?
No, I was going to make a call for the question, for the vote.
Let me get Councilman Saunders, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I have no idea how this vote is going to go. I recall discussions prior to tonight where anyone who would get, well, another bidder would work with general aviation with regard to a transition plan. So, however this vote goes tonight, if it goes someplace other than general aviation, I certainly hope that the people will still work with them, because I believe they need their skills, their experience, and a lot of things to make our airport to continue to be successful. And again, I'm looking at the volunteers. I'm looking at people who are signing up less now to volunteer. I'm looking at the staff involvement initially. I'm looking at also our legal counsel being involvement initially as well. It's a tough call, but I'm doing now what I think I need to do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion?
I'm Harold Garrison. I live on Westover Drive. I'm a resident of the city. I think the thing that we should remember here, it's not unusual for the committees that you appoint to give you 8-0 or 7-0 results. I'm on one of those committees, and the planning committee commonly refers back to you 7-0 votes in favor of things. So that doesn't surprise me that the Airport Commission was 8-0 in favor. But the point is, the city has a procurement system. That system says, send out a request for proposal. You receive 2 back, one of which was totally complete, one of which was not totally complete. I think you have to consider that you are looking at a procurement system that the city has in place. Are you going to change that system in the future to reflect, if we don't like the way it comes out, we can go do something else? Thank you.
Please state your name.
My name is Richard Bailey, and I'm a businessman here in the city. I too was at the meeting Councilman Shanks referred to, and one of the things that sticks in my mind was a comment made by an airline pilot that's a dear friend of mine. His name's Cooper Matheson. He said, we have on one side, I think I can, and on the other side we have somebody that has and can do. And I think that's pretty obvious. What I'm hearing tonight just amazes me, that we are concerned about volunteers, we're concerned about a process, and when no one seems to be emphasizing the product that we're producing out there. We've got a 70-year history of an outstanding product out there. And now it's in jeopardy over a process or an application where someone has gotten a presentation done by a professional graphics company. That just doesn't make any sense. This compromise that was recommended by the study committee bought some time for this thing to be pushed down the road so that everybody can have a chance to cool off and make better decisions down the road. For God's sakes, let's do that. And then at the end of the July 1 2019 as proposed, then you can deal with this thing and make it much clearer what you want. This airport is run by the city council, not this airport commission. I served as chairman of the commission, and everything we did was something that we recommended to the council, but it wasn't always approved and shouldn't have been. We're not on the board of directors. That's this group right here. We have a wonderful product. Let's keep it that way.
Let me just simply say, as I understand it, that the work session, this is what we agreed to, is that instead of 5 years, we would limit it to 18 months. And during that 18 months process, we would determine and start very quickly, is my understanding, Mr. City Manager, what is the best for that airport. That was my understanding, that what we agreed to in the work session. Am I correct in that? I see heads nodding.
No, I didn't agree to it.
No, well, those that supported it agreed to it. I think it was 5-3 that supported it.
Call the questions.
Any other discussion?
But Mr. Mayor, that's what we're voting on tonight is an 18-month.
Pardon?
What we're voting on tonight is an 18-month span to see what we do down the road.
What we voted on tonight is what was at the time 5-3 in the work session. Understanding people's minds can change. Councilman Vogel.
Mayor, I'd like to make a call for the question, for the vote.
Question has been called for.
Second.
I don't think we need a second, but call the roll, please.
Mr. Saunders?
No.
Mr. Shanks?
Yes.
Mr. Vogler?
Yes.
Mr. Whittle?
Yes.
Mr. Buckner?
Yes.
Reverend Campbell?
Yes.
Mayor Gilstrap?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
No.
Dr. Miller?
No.
Motion passes 6-3.
And the motion passes 6-3. Communication, City Manager.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Deputy City Manager.
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
City Attorney.
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
City Clerk.
Nothing, sir.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Shanks?
Just one item tonight. I would like to invite my fellow council members and city staff. I know Clark's been by several times in years past. To the public, Ascension Lutheran Church has its 62nd Grismine tree that has been placed on a stand and is being decorated this very moment. And by Sunday, the tree will be blessed, and the public will be invited to view the Chrisbons that are placed on the tree that come from all over the world. They're monuments of Christ that adorn the tree. That's an evergreen tree, 22 feet tall. It's awesome size. It's an unbelievable experience if you would just take the time over this holiday season to view the little tree at Ascension Lutheran Church on West Main Street. It would be mostly appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Vogler?
This Saturday morning, I believe I mentioned in the last council meeting, but I want to send a reminder if you haven't had a chance to get your tickets yet. The Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast is this Saturday morning. It's a great fundraiser for Kiwanis, and that money goes back into the community, a lot of great causes. So if you're interested in going to that or want to buy tickets or whatever for the Kiwanis Breakfast, you can speak to any Kiwanian and they'll help you out, myself or others you may know. The parade this past weekend was fantastic. I'm sure some other folks will talk about it, but the weather was tremendous. Probably the best weather in the 5 or 6 Christmas parades I've been a part of. And a huge crowd. And Councilman Shank said it was the biggest crowd he'd seen since he was a child. It was a huge amount of people, and it was wonderful to see that. A lot of activities, the Christmas tree lighting, just a lot of great things this weekend. I did want to mention something, and I don't know if it'll come up, but I noticed there's maybe been some miscommunication on it of who made it happen, but a lot of folks participated in the River District on Ice, the ice skating rink that's been downtown. But I did want to make sure that the credit for that is attributed in the right place. That was done by the River District Association. through a grant from the Danville Regional Foundation. It wasn't anything that the city council was involved in, so it's not something that we could take credit for, but I sure know a lot of folks were down there doing it. And I think Robert Joyce is watching at home, from what I understand, waiting for this part. So from what I understand, they've had about 300 people have checked it out so far, the uncensored numbers we've seen. So I took my son down there. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully it's something that will get bigger and grow as the years go. But the River District Association and Danville Regional Foundation made that happen, and I just want to make sure that they are correctly attributed for it. And lastly, today happens to be my mom's birthday, and so if she's watching, I want to wish a very happy birthday to my mom. And I'm not going to say her age, but she is a fantastic woman, and literally I would not be here without her, obviously, but in more ways than one. She's had a huge positive impact on my life, and just want to say happy birthday, Mom. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Whittle?
Yeah, I thought the parade was just fabulous. A great turnout, and I had rode on the back of Councilman Saunders' motorcycle. It was something to be said about that, and I appreciate the offer, and I just wish everybody Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Mr. Buckner?
Yeah, I too would like to thank everybody for coming out this weekend. What a fun time in Danville this past weekend with the lighting of the Christmas tree at the fountain. The luminary walk was absolutely amazing. My wife's son and I and our dog Hank had a great time with that. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on the trail and walking up and down Craghead that night. It was just a fun time to be around. And looks like a lot of people were having fun at the ice skating rink put on by the River District Association and Danville Regional Foundation. I didn't get out there. I didn't want to break my neck, so I just leave that to the younger, more nimble. Also, I'd like to remind everybody about 100 Ways, 100 Days. Still got a few more weeks left on that. We're up to about 90 suggestions. I would like to remind everybody to please get on there, and no matter how big or how small your suggestion may be, it's definitely worth submitting. And guys, look forward to a whole lot of stuff headed our way here in the next year. Thank you so much.
Reverend Campbell?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to, sorry to have Dr. Miller say a few words before I give my greetings.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Just the word, the parade was great. The bravest man out there was Councilman Whittle, riding on the back of that motorcycle. But he survived. And the ice skating rink, a lot of people complain about being so small. Well, you sort of, the more you paid, the bigger the rink you got. And they weren't really sure what the participation would be, but it's been outstanding so far. So I'd say next year the rink will be twice the size it is this year. But we commend the River District and Ms. Schwartz for coming up with that idea. Awesome idea. People I've talked to, from my kids included, I said, "You've got an ice skating rink in Danville? Wow." Miss Ruby Archie, I want to speak a minute about the Danville Public Library Fund. Miss Ruby indeed was a jewel, educator to many, beloved by all, and a friend to anyone who met her. She taught for 37 years at Langston and GW. She was a councilwoman, mayor of this city. Her achievements go on and on and on. So I can think of no more appropriate building to name in her honor than the public library. There was a recent petition to name the Danville Public Library after Miss Ruby, the Ruby Archie Memorial Danville Public Library. I commend the person who brought this petition forth for bringing it to our attention, and a committee has been formed to proceed with that. The person was somewhat reluctant to proceed when they found out that there was some monetary cost involved. When the committee was set up years ago about naming buildings, and Miss Ruby Archie was the chairman of that committee, the criteria was that the person had to be deceased for 3 years, and that person who brought the petition would be responsible for the payments for the naming of the building. But many of us did not want this to fall by the wayside when that person withdrew her name. So we, Miss Ruby's sorority, the AKA, Alpha Kappa Alpha, has become the organization that presents the petition, and many of us have gotten together to raise money for this, and it's going very well, as Reverend Campbell will tell you. I was on the radio Sunday morning promoting it, and yesterday we had a meeting where we went forth, and you were able to, and I guess you'll tell them where to send your contributions, but we'd like to not only pay for the signage, but also, you know, as time goes by, people forget, they just see a name on a building, have an area inside where there's a plaque extolling her many achievements, so people will be able to sit in the quiet area and read about Ruby Archie and what she did for this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Yes, we got together and was quite a few pledges that were made. So far, we have pledges about $3,500, and that's increasing. And a person can make their donation at BB&T. Miss Archie, if anybody knew her, she was a lady who stood out, and she had a strong voice and a strong impact upon our community. We feel honored that we have this opportunity to recognize her for the leadership within the city of Danville. A couple words I'd like to say. I went to a banquet, the Sisters of Success. President Fannie McKenzie and Renee Berger, Vice President. It was a very nice affair, and the purpose of the banquet, they have projects to raise funds for students going back to school and for senior citizens. And I just want to salute them for their work. And lastly, I just want to salute the Rotarians and the Rotary for the work that they did in putting the parade together. I agree with all of the statements that were said about how good the weather was, but the workers and the volunteers, they did an outstanding job to have a smooth parade, and for the security of our police department. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Gilstrap.
Yes, and it was a great weekend in the River District and the city of Danville. The Christmas lighting ceremony was great. I didn't go ice skating, but I did go down and watch the ice skaters. And then, of course, the parade. But not only in the River District. We had a good weekend all over Danville, and thank you for shopping locally. Holiday season, we have much to be thankful for. We just finished Thanksgiving, but I hope we'll all continue that Thanksgiving as we go through the holiday season and the year. And then I want to offer my congratulations to Councilman Lee Vogler for a little girl coming in April. April the what, Lee?
29th.
April the 29th. I saw his mother-in-law and she leaked that out. Thank you. Have a great week.
You want to mail it. It's BB&T on Collins Street, which is just on Lowe's Drive, just off Lowe's Drive. You need to go there, give your contribution there, or mail it into 132 Collins Street, BB&T. Either way.
Vice Mayor Jones.
The reception, I want to thank Miss Becky Bolton and all of those who were involved. And before the parade, there was a reception for all the council members and school board members, and there was a really, really nice reception. And I have to ditto everyone else in regards to the parade. A number of people, Mr. Shanks was absolutely right, just enjoyed waving with everyone and it was beautiful weather. So I just hope that we can keep that spirit of happiness throughout our community throughout the holidays. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Mr. Saunders.
I'd like to thank the Rotary Club for sponsoring Christmas Parade, a great event, and lots of people lined from start to end. I was thinking initially that it would end at the bottom of Main, right at Crackhead, but no, took a right going down Crackhead toward the community market. Lots and lots of people. So thank them for coming out. Thank the Rotary Club for sponsoring it, and that's the Riverview Rotary Club for sponsoring the event. And happy holidays to everyone. And I will say that Madison did not have on his seat belt, but he did not fall off.
Meeting adjourned.